what's up, you guys? My name is Cybersnowolf, and welcome back to LEGO Arts. In the last episode, we did a showcase on the Batman Arkham Origins minifigure, and for this episode, keeping up with the Batman theme, we have the updated versions of the Batman family. So for the showcase, we have Batman, Nightwing, Robin, Batgirl, and Red Hood. In brand new updated looks. And it looks that this was a project that I've wanted to touch on again for a little while now. For those of you who don't know, the Batman family was the first episode of LEGO Arts, and one of my earlier minifigures that I had for a while. And for a long time, at first I was satisfied with those minifigures, but as the years passed and my skills as an artist and a creator grew and expanded, I looked back at those figures and thought of like, I can actually improve on those. That these were long overdue for a makeover. And after seeing some gameplay stuff from Gotham Knights, I decided to finally get around to doing that. So you could kind of call this like a Gotham Knights kind of showcase. But for clarification, majority of these outfits are mostly my own designs, except for Batman, which I'll explain more about that in the future. But if you're wondering, what about minifigures like with Batwoman, Red Robin, Damian Wayne Robin, honestly, I didn't think about really doing those figures. The figures, primarily one with Batwoman, I had already done that minifigure, and I was more focused on expanding out with sort of my own designs for these current minifigures. So maybe I'll go back and at least do like Red Robin and Cassandra Cain, Batgirl, but for now, these are the figures that we have in store, and overall, I'm just really excited to finally showcase to you guys these cool figures. So, as you guys know the drill, we're these big figures one at a time, do a video, explain the process, why we disrupt, and then go from there. So without further ado, let's get the pedestal out and get the showcase on the road. To begin us off, we have the Batman in the Arkham Knight Mark III suit. And this is probably my favorite version of the Arkham Knights because it's a combination of various Batman customs merged together as one. The base body for the arms, legs, and torso were done by Brick Affiliations. The belt, shoulder, and wrist gauntlet pieces were done by Titan King, and the cowl was made from Morphonaunts. And overall, just meshed together in sort of like this ultimate version of the Batsuit. That suit, which I gotta say, I love the overall design of it, is really, really cool. Cool. So, with starting off, going top down to bottom, the cowl design was, again, created by Morphonaunts, as he really nails the detailing. You can see, like, on the sides of the cowl, and it continues on with the back. I really love this version of the Arkham Knight cowl. It's probably my favorites. Because, again, I love the overall design approach that he really went with this. It was really, really cool. And moving ahead a little bit, we have a bit of the torso, the bit of the neck piece from Brick Affiliations version of the Batsuit, as it came with the whole figure, and I liked the figure. But I did want to sort of combine it up as sort of like my own take on it, and see how it would turn out, and I really liked it. So this neck piece I kept intact, as I really love the design of it, as well as the way how it covers up with the back of the cape is really, really cool. Unfortunately, the whole cowl is merged with the head, so we unfortunately cannot remove it. But I did have to do some paintwork underneath to make sure the white lenses fit into the cowl. Now, moving on with this, we have like one of these spare capes with just the singular hole. I normally don't like these kinds of capes, but for this particular figure, it actually worked out pretty well. The rest of the figure was really, really cool. Like, Brick Affiliations, like, did an awesome work with the torso. I love the detailing, how they did with this, as well as, like, merging it all into one. Like, you could see, like, the amount of detailing they did on the front and back, really, really cool. I did paint out my own back belt for this one, as it didn't come with its own, so I decided to paint it up a little bit to really complete the figure, which, it's not terrible. It does pull off, like, the overall idea of what it was going for. The arms were actually, and it did have, like, its own gauntlets and everything, but since I wanted it to sort of, like, all merge together, I had to do a little bit of sand work, which I carefully made sure to do as to not damage anything, and thankfully, it all came out pretty well. pretty well, and I really liked the overall design of it. Like, you could actually see like some of the detailing work that stuck around with it, and merged together. It still looks really, really cool. Really cool. The hands have some detailing as well. Like, you could see a little bit of the knuckles on Batman's gloves. So I was careful. It was a bit tricky on putting this thing together, as since the entire figure is actually 3D printed. And 3D printed, it was a bit tedious to make sure that I would like put everything together without it breaking. And I did actually accidentally had one moment. You can kind of see here, one piece did break off, but thankfully I was able to restore it and fix it back together. But it is kind of delicate, especially when I was looking for some waste pieces. I think that was the only piece that wasn't 3D printed, so it was definitely a bit tricky on making sure that I got the right one. Anyways, moving on downwards with the belt. And the belts, again, it came with this belt. It came with a belt of its own, but I did like the design that Titan King did, so I kept that one intact and sort of merged, was sort of carefully trimmed off the belt piece that I had for a spare Batman torso piece, as well as like same thing with the legs, and carefully just glued it onto the torso, but still came out really well. And well, the leg designs, I do like the leg design. Oh, that's a bit shiny. But moving down a bit, you could actually see like some of the detailing that they went with the legs, which I think looks really cool. And it looks really, really cool. Like, I love the various detailing that they did with torso, with like the sides, as well as like the boots. I really like this. It was so cool to really paint this the whole thing up. And overall, like pretty much like all the print work had mostly just been done, with like all these various like pieces merged together, but and the biggest concerns that I really had were just painting up, as well as like making sure that everything was stuck together as one, nothing broke. And thankfully, aside from a few minor hiccups, I was able to keep this figure overall intact, and keep everything together. And overall, it was a very, very solid figure. The original designs, like with Brick Affiliation's original design for the Batsuit, it's still really, really cool. Really cool. And I still love Titan King's approach with the figure. It was really cool design. But seeing it sort of all together as one really makes this, in my opinion, one of the best Batman figures. And I really had a good time customizing this guy. It was so much fun to do. Moving on to what I guess what you call the Gotham Knights portion of the showcase. Okay, so we're starting off with Nightwing, and if you've seen my first Nightwing minifigure, you can see the drastic difference between this one and the first one. Like, when it came to working on with Nightwing, I definitely wanted to really improve more on the overall design of the figure. As when I first did that one, it was very simple as just doing like decal prints on the face and the torso, and that was it. Not really a lot of creativity on that aspect. So when definitely doing this one, I wanted to expand out more with the overall design of it. First off with designing the torso completely. It's one of the rare times where I take a blank minifigure torso and just worked from there. As I said before, like, this is not a particular suit design. I basically just sort of went with my own imagination with this one. With this guy, taking a couple references from some suits from inspiration, but this whole thing is pretty much my own take for the Nightwing suit, but I really like how it did. So first off, what I did, and it was like painting up around with the torso, like you can see like some of the detailing that I tried to do, as well as like some of the muscle and suit designs. And I also did some Procreate clay and expanded out with one of Nightwing's iconic symbols. And it continues on. If we remove the head okay, the hairpiece can be removed. Remove the head real quick. You could see that the paintwork does continue on from the chest and get back on the pedestal. We move on to the back. You could see it continues onwards to the back. And again, it was sort of like my own take with this. I was not going for a particular design. I was just mostly expanding outwards of sort of my own imagination. And real quick on the sides of the arms, similar thing for where I wanted to add more 3D elements to it. So I carefully sculpted out some shoulder plates, as well as like the almost like his wrist guards, and did some detailing on there. I did a metallic blue as I wanted to expand more on metallics for this showcase. As I felt that it would really make these versions of the Batman family stand out. And I'm glad it did, because I really liked how the metallics work with this guy, especially the gunmetal gray, which was one of the things that I definitely wanted to do for my Batman minifigure. But anyways, back on with Nightwing. Here, the headpiece is the only thing that remained the same, as I did like that head design. And I wanted to keep that on. The hairpiece was a custom one that I picked up from Firestar Toys, as I felt that this hairstyle really fits with Nightwing, especially in the lighter styles. For the rest of the figure is pretty simple. I just added in a couple of pieces of Procreate clay to represent the sort of like pouches on his belt, and then did a little bit of paintwork on the back and on the sides. Nothing too drastic, just mostly just to give it some detailing of my own. And finally, he has these riot batons this time, as when I first did the batons, they were just basically translucent blue rods with like some black Sharpie at the end, and I considered that like the Nightwing electrical rods. Honestly, looking back at that, like, fine at the time, but nowadays, not really good. Not really good, and very bland. So I decided to expand out with this one, and I found that Venom.7777 did these awesome riot batons, and I felt that those were perfect for Nightwing, that I picked up, and so I picked up a couple of those, painted up the handles into the gunmetal gray, the black for the base, and then went in with basically a teal to represent the electricity that Nightwing would use against his enemies. And looking back at my first Nightwing minifigure, this is a drastic improvement from the other one. Like, again, it was good at the time, but I love that I decided to go back and really expand onto this character as, number one, my own interpretation of it, and number two, it really shows sort of the growth that I've gone through over the years when it comes to customizing. Next up on our list, we have the Boy Wonder Tim Drake's Robin. So if you're wondering, why didn't I do the Damian Wayne Robin and have Red Robin? Because honestly, at the time, I was thinking more that since it would be more of Gotham Knights, and Tim Drake is Robin in that one, I wanted to do that one instead. And plus it would give me an opportunity to try and experiment with some more, with some Procreate clay on 3D elements, which I'd say turned out really, really great. So the head is the same. It's the same that I used for my first Red Robin minifigure, but I made a couple of changes. The hairpiece that I got this hairpiece off of Firestar Toys, which I like this hairstyle more. In fact, I think this suits way more with Tim Drake and Tim Drake's Robin much more than the other one did. So I really, really like that. The bow staff, I will say, this was not this is not like the final bow staff that I had planned for. I have plans for a different bow staff entirely, but lately I don't. But I ordered it a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't gotten any notifications of when it's been shipped and whatnot. So honestly, at the time, I don't know when it's coming in or not. So I might need to get another one. But for the time being, think of this as sort of like the stand-in, as this still does do a good representation for the staff. So we could go ahead and pull that off to the side, and focus on the rest of the torso. I was focusing more on, like, with first, like, some of the base colors for it, with painting on like my own red coloration for the base, and then adding on with the rest. The design of it did take some inspiration from the Arkham City version of Robin, as I did like that design, and it expanded out more to a bit of my own interpretation of it. The R and the belt are completely sculpted, as I wanted to play around with it, and they actually came out much better than I was expecting. I'm still practicing on sculpting out some stuff like this. This R is probably like one of the few times that I've managed to sculpt something out, and to sculpt out a symbol that didn't look like absolute crap. But it looks really great, and I do like it with the rest of the suit. And speaking of which, we could go ahead and pull off the head real quick. and quick. The cape was pretty easy to do. That since this was a cape that I had painted beforehand, I just gave it a new fresh coating of black paint and then added in the yellow. And thankfully, because since I had already done so many layers on painting this cape beforehand, it didn't bleed onto the back, so it was able to stick around as one piece, which was really, really good. Moving on with the rest of the figure, we can really see more of the sculpting work that, similarly to how I did Nightwing, I sculpted on the shoulder pads and the wrist gauntlets, and painted them up in metallic green. I have a whole bunch of this stuff from when I was making Green Goblin, and felt that you know what, this would work. And if you're wondering what this is, this was supposed to be drawn out to be sort of like a robin, like a bird symbol, or a symbol like on the sides of it, mostly just for fun and to see how it would look. And then a little bit of detailing work on the back, not too much, but enough to give the overall idea of what it was supposed to be. And the legs, a similar fashion, another fashion of not too much detailing, but enough to give you the general idea of how this character is supposed to look. And overall, I will say that this turned out much better than I was expecting, especially that R. I like taking in like the small victories here and there, as again with symbols they're still pretty difficult for me to paint up and to sculpt on, but I do like how this one came out, and it came out really, really good. I might go back one day and do Damian Wayne Robin, especially for like a hood piece, but for the time being, I'd say this is my definitive Robin, and I really like how he turned out. So next up we have is Batgirl. So when doing this figure, it was a bit more of experimentation with this one. So one of the first things that I wanted to change up a bit is the cowl. This is a brand new cowl piece, and actually a proper official Lego cowl that I got from Firestar Toys. The other one, I wasn't really happy with this one. Happy with the old one, as the hair design wasn't really good, and the cowl was stuck on the figure's head. So I really wanted to change it up and add in a new design. So thankfully, Firestar Toys had an extra cowl, and it had like these extra official Lego cowls, and I was able to get one of these for Batgirl, and thankfully this one can be removed so we can see the head underneath, and I really like this head design much more as we get some dual faces this time with like one being a bit more like cheeky, and more, I don't know if I call it cheeky, but more determined smile kind of, and then on either side a bit more serious and like what, that's kind of style, but fit on with the mask, it really makes it look better. So so the head and the cowl were a much nice improvement compared to the other figure. Moving on with the torso. This was actually sort of a mixed design with this and the official Lego design, as I really liked the overall design with that. In fact, let's go ahead and remove the head. We can get a better look. I did do two capes this time around. So one was painted in the metallic purple, and the other one is just a regular yellow cape. I sort of like to blend the two together, as I didn't want to mess up either of the capes. But anyways, the torso design roughly was similar to like the official Lego Batgirl figure that I had. I even tried to replicate the detailing on the back, as you can kind of see. I tried to keep it most as possible because I really liked that overall design, and thought that that could still work. Let me try and see if I can keep much of it as possible, which was tedious with painting on the metallic purple, and making sure that all that detailing was still on there. And also the 3D element on here for the chest. I've sculpted out plenty of chests, with but those were mostly all for male characters. I've never done like a breastplate for a female character, and I kind of wanted to test that out just to see how it would turn out. And it's not terrible, but I'm not sure if this is something that I would want to try again. Again, this is sort of more of an experiment, and I remember to see how it turned out. It's not terrible, but I don't know if I would do it again in the future. Anyways, moving on with the rest of it. The belt and the belt piece. At first, I thought about carving out each individual wrapping around the belt design, but I didn't want to hate myself and just kept it as it was. The arms, I left the shoulder pads clean this time, and just focused more on painting on the detailing for it. Remember, which I did like, and then these band braces. races, I will say that these were originally not supposed to be this design. I was going to use these knockoff Batman Dark Knight Trilogy minifigure pieces, but the figures that I ordered from those were ordered like pretty much 2 months ago at this point. And last I checked, they were like off to a postal company in Texas somewhere. So I honestly have no idea if those figures are still en route or not, or if I have to get some new ones. But I grew more and more impatient the longer that this project was being pushed off more than it needed to be. So I decided to order a different pair and work with those. If those pieces arrive, I'll probably update it. But for now, this is sort of like the overall design for Batgirl. And then finally off with the legs. And the legs, like, pretty simple. I continued on the same pattern. And then from the arms onto the legs. And the legs, as I thought that looked really, really cool. Base painted on the metallic purple. And then added in my own detailing. And then the yellow boots. Overall comparison to the first one, again, a much nice improvement. And looking on camera, I really like how the figure really pops out and everything, especially with the colors and everything. It's still pretty cool. Finally, to finish it off, an oldie but goodie Red Hood. If you recall a while back, I did do a solo figure showcase on Red Hood beforehand, and this is still the same figure, but a couple of things. One, I still wanted this figure to show off in the showcase, as I still like the design of it. And two, I wanted to give it a couple of updates with this one. So one of the first things that I did was repainted up the helmet into this metallic red. As, again, I really wanted the metallics to stand out. And it also gave me an excuse to go back and fix a couple of minor mistakes that I had on with the helmet design. Nothing too drastic, but there were definitely a few for I was like, yeah, I don't like it. So I wanted to go back and fix that up, and thankfully I was able to carefully paint around this entire head, and even this symbol on the back without compromising any of the rest of the figure. Like, it's still intact and everything, and it still turned out really, really great. So again, I love how it turned out. A couple of additional pieces that I did with it was I added in some Procreate clay on the arm, on the wrist guards, and the hands. As I originally had those just silver paints, but I wanted to add in more 3D elements. And then at the bottom here, I sculpted on these knee pads, as well as boot pieces, on here. At first I thought about maybe sculpting on some more, like the feet itself, but that probably would have been too much, and it would have been harder to put it on, like a Lego pad. So I excluded that out, and the guns finally were given a proper update. I got these also from Venom, as I love his design of these pistols. These look really, really great. And the other guns, at the time they were good, but looking back at that, they're built more for anime characters or robot aliens or something. It basically didn't look really good. Really good overall with it. In comparison with these ones, these look more simplistic but at the same time more high-tech and something that Jason would wield. Unfortunately, I cannot remove the helmet, as you can see the head is stuck onto it, which is sad because I did want to update the head, but still looking at the rest of the figure, it still serves pretty good to how I did before. And again, I still like the design that I had for this guy. And I'm grateful that I did decide to go back and do a couple of minor updates to it, as now this looks much cooler, and much more like a proper Red Hood minifigure. Well, that's gonna do it for this episode of LEGO Arts. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And again, I know I didn't do the entirety of the Batman family compared to the first one. I might go back and do sort of like a part 2 with like updated versions on like Red Robin, Damian Wayne's Robin, Cassandra Cain's Batgirl, and a couple of others. But honestly, I'm satisfied right now with this look, because as like looking back at the first time I did the Batman family, at the time those were good figures and they had served their purpose. But looking back, but now in comparison with this updated figures, I like these kinds of showcases because it shows the growth that I've gone through with skills as an artist and a customizer. And I love each of these designs that I went for with this figure. Like, aside from the Arkham Batman, all of these were sort of my own, my own ideas, interpretations for each of the characters. And again, I love how they turned out. And it turned out this was really fun to do, and a nice breather from a couple of other big projects that I've been working on. Which, speaking of which, Ragnarok is coming along greatly, greatly. I'm about 50% done with Faye, and it's done with Faye. I mostly need to just work on her work on her waist and legs, and she should be good to go. And then I'll move on to Odin. I am still going through ideas on how to approach for the display, but I am getting closer and closer to figuring it out. And hopefully once I get that done, we'll be ready to go for that. I have begun like just applying on the parts for the noble team, and I'm going to begin painting and sculpting on a couple of the parts very soon. And I haven't started on Benny and the Drug Revival yet, but I have figured out like which characters I want to do and how I want to approach them. So I should be able to begin on that soon. In the meantime, I'll probably be showcasing a couple of minor stuff here and there. And as for Let's Plays, for those of you who haven't seen, I have decided that currently, Let's Play wise, I have begun on Sky Children of the Light, but for gameplays, I think I'm mostly just going to be streaming those on my Twitch. As number one, I haven't been on Twitch in a while, and number two, I'm feeling like lately the gameplays aren't going quite as well as I was expecting. Like, they don't get a lot of views in general, but I'm feeling like I think it's time to expand out a little bit more. And plus, I haven't been on Twitch in a long time, and I really want to utilize my Twitch channel more often. But overall, that is going to be it for now. So let me know what you guys think about these figures in the comments below, as well. And if you want to check out some of the stuff with like Venom and Venom Brick affiliations and all those other people, I'll include links to their stuff in the description below. Go check them out, show them some love, because they do fantastic work. And overall, that is going to be it. So, if you guys would like to see more episodes like this in the future, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications. It really helps us work on Let's Plays, like products, and make lives so fun. So overall, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, hit that like button, come up over to share your friends, subscribe to YouTube, follow me on Twitch. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time in the next episode. Bye-bye!